Hello, possums. Dr. Lena Rodriguez coming to you from Sao Paulo in Brazil. And this is my last few days in Brazil, and I head back to Australia. So I leave here Wednesday night and I get to Australia Friday morning. Oh, bet you wish you were sharing that trip. Ooh, yucky poo. But in the meantime, we've got a new horror on the block in the form of the New York Appeals Court overturning Harvey Weinstein's conviction. What is that about? Now, they'll be the ones, I imagine, hearing the Yetis case. And this is disturbing. Now, Harvey's still in jail and will stay in jail because I think there was a Californian angle to the case too. And he's been convicted there and they won't have any jurisdiction over that. But this overturned a 23-year sentence. And that got me thinking, was this a legal decision or are they actually bent? Is this a corrupt arm of the legal system? How could you do entertainment purposes only, YouTube? But don't you find it enormously suspicious? Really? So let's kick off with that, the New York Appeals Court itself, because their legal reasoning, and this is a worry in itself, was in the New York case for Weinstein, that too much information was brought forward by the prosecution that wasn't relevant to his case. So is that a real thing? Or do we have some other monstrous entity we have to worry about? So let's have a look. New York Court of Appeals, was this legal thinking? Or have they been bought for, condominium in the Bahamas? Let's have a look. Of course, I'm improvising. You're sitting here on a suitcase. Let's see if I can manage this. Ooh, okay. New York Court of Appeals. Don't know if you'll be able to see them all. Oh, I'm not liking that a lot. Okay. Let's have a look here and break it down. King of Wands is always someone who's very decisive, who knows what they're doing, how to get what they want, doesn't take any nonsense, right? So this card's come up first. I'm thinking the energy around this card is this is possibly the collective. I don't know how many members there are in a New York appeals court, but I don't think it's one. I think it's all of them. They don't like being told what to do and what to think. Okay. They're used to compromise. Now, generically, appeals aren't successful. If you look statistically in most countries, most appeals don't work. But their record is shifting, right? So they're doing more. There's also the implication of money in this Six of Pentacles card. They've foxed themselves in with this ruling on Weinstein, and my feeling is this has drawn attention to them. Just like I can't be the only person in the world to wake up thinking, who are the people actually on this appeals court? How much can you trust them? They've done this to themselves. They didn't have to do this. I think this Three of Swords is representing you guys, meaning the American public who does think and care about what the United States represents, or at least used to represent. And it's another dagger in the heart as the legal system is struggling to deliver in this climate. I don't think all is lost. I think this is a legal discussion, right, that's somewhat circular, but there are those who oppose this, right? This has been noticed. They've drawn attention to themselves, and this is going to lead to much more legal discussion, and not a minute too soon. So while we're still on the legals, it's hard to get away from them, isn't it? Chuck Schumer came out this week and he actually said it, so I don't have to. Awesome, thank you, Chuck. That Justice Roberts has failed, simply failed in his job, failed to maintain the integrity of the Supreme Court, failed to rein in their worst excesses, just a big capital F fail. So I think, I know a lot of you support Garland. My basic position is not a man for the time. You know, when he convicted Timothy McVeigh for domestic terrorism, which was a huge case back then, the world was different. He had the whole system working for him. Now that's no longer the case. And Roberts has just been there. He always looks like he's had a couple of Xanax, doesn't he? Oh, hi, Justice Roberts. Oh, hi, you know. So these are probably nice enough guys, but have they got the mongrel, as we would say in Australia? Okay, so let me look at my million notes here because we won't be able to get through it all. So let's have a look. Oh, a lot of you want to know about Hunter Biden. Yeah, we'll do Hunter in a minute. Oh, this is interesting. The Yeti going up for the probation officer to do the pre-sentencing report and the conditions that he has to fulfill. We talked about this a bit on Hogarth's program Saturday night, and we were having a bit of a giggle, we have to say, because he notoriously doesn't comply with what he's told to do, or he agrees and then doesn't do it. But one of the standard conventions in any for anybody who's convicted of a felony is you're not to associate with other known convicted felons, right? That's standard. I don't care if you're in Australia, Canada, or wherever. And I made a list for you. This is the Yeti's immediate associates who have already been convicted. You know, this is in the cabal of convicts that he oversees. So it's easy to forget. His campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, went to jail. The deputy campaign manager, someone Gates. His personal lawyer, his chief strategist, Bannon, his national security advisor, Flynn. These are all guys who've been pardoned, but they're nonetheless, the conviction is still out there. His trade advisor, Peter Navarro, foreign policy advisor, campaign fixer, Michael Cohen, and his company CEO, Weisselberg. So theoretically, you know, really, it is a cabal. Okay, so let's phrase our question here. How is the Yeti going to respond to the probation interviews? His inadequate lawyer, Todd Blanche, is going to be in on the interview, and he'd be treading on his toes saying, yeah. So let's see how the probation rules, the whole pre-sentencing report, how's that going to go? How's that going to go? And then we'll get to Hunter. Oops, what fell over the lovers? Oh my God. Okay, now come on down. We had the lovers, 10 of Pentacles, strategy, Queen of Swords, 5 of Cups. Look, with the lovers card coming first up, it's an agreement in this sense. If you're learning tarot, the lovers is not necessarily romantic. You know, it's about contracts, deeds, pacts, you know, mergers of all sorts. So I think they'll thrash out some sort of agreement. 10 of Pentacles. I think because this is an intergenerational card, I think there's some implication for the demon spawn, the delinquent sons and heirs of the Yeti who will stand to inherit his miserable losses, are impacted somehow by this. I wonder what that actually means. But there's money circulating within the family around this somehow. The strategy is under the pact or agreement. So I hope they've got a well-qualified person doing this interview, or he'll or she will just be gobbled up and be thrown by the Yeti's weird behavior, right? Oh, I know. I just got a flash on this. They're going to play the age card. See the older grey figure there? He's not grey because he chooses to dye his hair orange, but they're going to use his age a lot in making things easier for him. He doesn't get it all his own way with this Queen of Swords. You know, this is sort of a Judge Judy type person. You know, just the facts, please, just the facts. Trying to keep these interviews and the deal on track. I think he is going to be isolated more and more and more. Not jail. It's not going to be jail. But he will be more isolated than he has been. I think it's also going to be challenging, even for the magophiles. Major point. Major point. In the most recent rally, which I think was Las Vegas, the teleprompter went down. I'm beginning to think there's a few Dems in the tech crew that are doing these things. The teleprompter seems to not work a lot. I'd love that to be the case. Okay. So it didn't work. So then he goes on a riff. And at one point he said to the MAGA faithful, I don't care about you. I just want your vote. He actually said it. And you know, if you've got aging relatives, sometimes if they've been quite private all their lives and things, suddenly they blurt things. I think it's one of those. So amidst all of that, he started talking about a woman who lost her arm in a shark attack, but he somehow blamed electric boat motors for it. And I mean, we're talking woo, okay, deep bow wow, woof woof, crazy talk. But I hope they heard that. I don't care about you, I just want your vote. Because that sums up the man and the movement. Now, Dems, please find that soundbite and pump it out in every state. Please. Okay, Hunter, because it's almost the end of his case because it's such a stupid case. You know, probably every fourth armed person in America has been taking recreational drugs to some extent or another. And bearing in mind alcohol is legal, if we included that. Anyway, we'll see what's going to happen. What's the outcome for Hunter? Outcome for Hunter. What's happening here? Well, okay, his cards aren't bad. His cards aren't bad at all. Quite relieved to report. Because, yes, something should happen, like, no, you can't own a firearm again. Of course, neither can the Yeti. Now he's a convicted felon, but it's probably just as well. Okay, he gets the magician card. So this is a powerful card. So I think the result's going to be a bit different than we expect in some way, because I think, please let me know in the comments if I'm wrong, is this his first big legal offence, or has he got a series of misdemeanors? Because all that matters. So let me know. But I have a feeling he'll be all right. He has the Ace of Cups, which is very emotional, massively emotional, very hard for his father, of course, as well. So I think this is a release of emotion. I think the Biden family will be relieved when this case is over. He will get something with this Five of Swords. It will be a conviction, probably. It will be, because he's pleading not guilty, which I don't think is a winning strategy, and he's decided to tough it out. I think he'll get a bit more because he pled not guilty. If he pled guilty, he could have avoided the trial and probably got a smack on the wrist. He decided, well, his legal team, to plead guilty. So this will cause some complications for him. But the Knight of Wands, by the time when his pre-sentencing report comes, that he's been clean for however long, and the ex-wives, testified that he was drug-addled at the time, now he isn't, etc., etc. A bit of a redemption story. So I think he'll have something. He might get a suspended sentence, probation, or something, but I don't think it'll be too harsh. Okay. And of course, the Magas have been very quiet on that because they've all got a cousin or a nephew or a son or a daughter-in-law who's done the same thing. Oh, please spare me. Okay, so, oh, yes. Okay. Now, Brazil. They too had a coup because part of the legacy of the Yeti generally is Bolsonaro, far right, got in Brazil not long after Trump. Because of that, then Malay in Argentina. Now, when Lula, the good guy, got voted in again in Brazil after the terrible repressive Bolsonaro years, Bolsonaro would not accept the result of the election, right? But at least in Brazil, they can recognize a coup when they see one. So it's 18 months since their attempted coup, and it's all being processed now in the courts. 18 months, not 4 years. They're not kangaroo courts. It didn't all happen 5 minutes after. 18 months was, I think, about the time frame that should have been happening in the States. It's a radical threat. And the charges are really interesting. The language of the charges. Most people in Brazil who have been charged after the coup, which was the same thing, thousands running into the equivalent of Congress and doing all the same stuff, they were charged with 2 things. A violent attempt to subvert the democratic state of law. Quite simple. Are you listening, Jenny Thomas? And the other one is restricting the exercise of constitutional powers, because it was exactly the same timing. It was January 8th instead of 6th at the inauguration time. Restricting the exercise of constitutional powers. Those are the only two charges you need, actually. You don't have to get into the full-blown sedition, treason thing, and then people get all weird and love that. Clear cut, no nonsense. Okay, so now the next thing I wanted to talk about, questions from you guys. How will the MAGA convention in July unfold, and how will it impact Milwaukee? Okay, because they're forced to host this beast. So let's have a look at that. A convention of the maggots, where they're going to endorse this imbecilic, dangerous man with the brain of a goldfish, convicted felon, not a problem, queuing up. Isn't it amazing? But the convention. Okay, let's have a look at how the convention will go. And then this question is from Milwaukee. I'll have a little look at it. Okay. Interesting, not even calling it the GOP convention, it's just the MAGA convention. Okay, the sun, it'll be very hot. 1, 2. Oh, big cards. Look at this. Look at this. 5 cards and 4 majors. Oh my God. This is big. Really big. Okay. Look, I think what this sun card leading this spread is about, one, literally the sun and the heat and everything else is going to be July. But the sun also shines light, and it's going to shine light on their madness, their grift, and their folly. This is a party that doesn't have a problem with guns, but has a problem with hard water bottles in the heat. People were collapsing at the last rally. But it's going to be unveiled in all its theatrical nonsense. They're going hard and going big. This is the world card. Now, speaking for the rest of the world, as I often do, we're forced to watch this nonsense on steroids, and we're all dealing with our version of it. The far right, I digress, the far right this week gained ground in the European elections. Never good. And particularly in France. Not good, not good. Okay, so everyone's dealing with the far right nutcases in their own countries. But in a way, by watching America, we're getting the preview of what to expect in our own countries. Okay, so don't feel you're alone in this. But this is a big deal, and it's the end of a major cycle and the beginning of another. So I think what we're going to see next up is the Fool card. I think what this is about is people are going to make abject fools of themselves, one after the other, because they're competing. Because this happens in any fascist state. People want to suck up to the big man, okay? And so I'm more loyal than you are. I will say more extreme things than he will. I will be even worse than she could dream of. That sort of foolishness. And that's why I think he's not going to choose a running mate soon, because he loves that circus. Okay. This is the pact with the devil, I think. This is the wedding from hell. This is a forging of the MAGAs and the evangelicals together. Because if you follow the fine print of the news, there's more evangelicals actually here and there pulling away because they're not happy with the fact they know in their bones the Yeti is not a religious man. And they thought it'd all be end of days, and it didn't matter that he was a philanderer and a thief and a con man and just a ridiculous creature, because they got their agenda. But some are peeling away, but not the majority. This to me is the wedding between the MAGAs and the evangelicals. Now, there's already some overlap in that demographic, but not all MAGAs are church going, right? But they're going to pull together as one here. Now, the outcome card, she who magnifies everything, is the Empress. She's also the card of Mother Russia. So right next to this card, so lest we forget, remember it'll be 4 years ago now, maybe even 5, where I think it was 12 GOP delegates went to Moscow. And they came back, changed people, very Moscow friendly, right? We're going to actually see or hear about this in the context of this convention. I think those people are going to, somehow it's going to be revealed with this sun, the connections with Moscow. But that's not going to move the dial for the MAGA-philes who wouldn't know where Russia was and couldn't spell it. And it's not going to move the dial with the evangelicals. It's just going to be more frustration for Americans who actually don't want to see their entire Congress as pawns and lackeys of Putin. Okay? But I think we're going to hear about it. Okay. So let me just check here. In the Fani Willis case, McAfee is going to start hearing oral arguments. Not until the 4th of October, so that case is pushed down the hill. And Judge Cannon is going to hear submissions about even having a special counsel. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but I can tell you something for nothing. I don't know any other country in the world that would be 4 years after an insurrection, a year and a half at least into this, the preliminaries of a case, not have a trial date and start talking about whether there should even be a special counsel. This is nonsense. It is absolute nonsense. And so, you know, Midas Touch and others been saying, look, she keeps transgressing and not performing at the level expected with this degree of complexity. And that 11th Circuit or whoever overlooks her, we've been going to bed with our fingers and toes crossed, hoping to wake up that something will happen, you know. So let's have one more look, because these things are volatile. Are we seriously going to have to watch this unfold? Or will something be done about the troll in robes, Aileen Cannon? Look, the Lord, goodness me, let's have a look. Let's have a look. Is anything shifting with Aileen Cannon to take her off the case? Is anything shifting? Are we any closer? Let's have a look. Oh, the King of Wands comes up again. Oh, they're thinking about it. Oh, okay. I'm thinking this could be a possibility of something. Okay. King of Wands. So we got this as the first card of the day, really. And again, I think it's more a collective. I think it's the collective of that supervisory body. They've been watching her closely with a telescope. They've been watching her and what she's doing, right? The Ace of Cups, remember? It's funny. This came up too in the same thing. They should not be worrying about people's emotions. I'm sorry, you're supposed to be the hard-nosed guys. They're somehow a bit too emotionally invested. I'm not entirely happy with this card. They're playing things close to their chest, but I don't know if you got a good look at that card. That's holding on to things. They're reluctant to set a precedent of taking a judge off the bench. This is the problem. Before I get to the last card, this is the problem with, in my mind, Roberts, Garland, etc. I understand why they don't want to set a precedent for all this crazy upheaval in the legal system. Just stick with what you know. It's worked for 250 years. Trust it, trust it. But it's a critical time. I'm quite pleased to see the Chariot here. You see how these two cards, like this is them at the moment. They're waiting for like one more thing or something, for her to do one more thing, and then they may act. Oh, please, I hope I'm not talking about that. Someone has to have the cojones to take this forward, break with tradition and start. That's how you now defend the legal system in this time and place. So guys, a little bit of housekeeping before I go. I'll be doing personal readings again. In about 2 or 3 weeks, I'll start. I've already been communicating with some of you. Okay, but I'll keep you in the loop. And I'll get back to you as soon as I get back home to Australia. So you guys take care. Keep the comments rolling in. And I'll see you ever so soon. But for now, hasta luego, babies. Ciao, ciao.